Today's show is sponsored by ExpressVPN, one-click protection for all your devices. Securing yourself could not be easier. Visit expressvpn.com/funhouse.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Funhaus, the film podcast brought to you by Elise and I on the Funhaus channel, where we talk about the latest and greatest hot drops of the week in the film industry. Nothing's come out for about a year.
That's untrue because we have watched movies that have released digitally on demand, James.
But I'm the wild card.
You are.
But generally though, we do reviews and stuff like that. But in this case, we've played a lot of fun games. We actually do have some cool news stories. It feels like things have been picking up again.
Yeah.
Like we're ramping up. Someone knows something. Someone in the film industry knows something, and they say that the world is going to start getting back to normal. They really want the world to get back to normal. And so there's like news stories. You can see the marketing machine kind of turning up. So on this week's episode, we're going to be talking about some of that marketing ramping up for Justice League. Mm-hmm. The real Justice League.
The Snyder Cut.
The Snyder Cut.
Knightmare.
The
cut,
Knightmare, including cut. We're also going to talk a little bit about Elise's favorite Danny DeVito movie in which he stars as a twin. I won't spoil which one.
I don't know what my favorite Danny DeVito movie is, actually.
Matilda.
I don't know that it's that.
And then we also want to take some time and jump into the Golden Globes, because the Golden Globes nominees were announced. And so it's a weird season, because normally everyone's like, aha, and they think, but everyone saw everything on their own time, and like you mentioned, in like streaming platforms all over the internet. So there's a lot of stuff we haven't even seen.
And of course, so much just had to get punted. So it's a really, really weird awards landscape right now. I don't know if you saw like the SAG nominees came out.
I haven't looked through the SAG nominees. I was just looking through the Golden Globes, and I was like,
those might be even weirder than the Golden Globes.
Didn't know that was a movie. It's maybe the one real downside to streaming platforms managing the entire release schedule of movies is that some things just fly under the radar and they can be really good, but you might not see them because you don't want to pay an extra $8 a month.
Yeah, I will say the Snyder Cut has probably gotten the most press over the last 6 months than any movie has.
And justifiably so, and we're going to give it that press. But first, I want to jump in and we can just recap kind of what we've been watching.
Sure.
You want to start there?
Yeah.
So not all movies, but we do have at least one movie that is worth mentioning. Color Out of Space.
Yeah, the Nicolas Cage movie.
The Nicolas Cage movie, which everyone was like, it seems like every once in a while it's like, Nicolas Cage is back. But I think maybe you mentioned it while we were watching it. It just says yes to everything. So the odds of him like hitting a ground ball like and getting on base is higher than maybe some other actors.
Yeah, it's the swings and a miss that you don't hear about too, which he's doing.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of high concept wacky directors who are reaching out to him and like giving him weird things. So there's like the thing that looks like Five Nights at Freddy's that he's going to be in, and people are like, ooh, but is it going to be good? We don't know. But Color Out of Space. This movie was hyped up to us pretty heavily by our own Funhouse's own Ryan Haley. He was a big fan of this. It's directed by Richard Stanley, who you may know is the guy who snuck back onto the set of The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, was the story that he was originally the director of that film and then got kicked off?
Yeah, he was originally the director of that film after having done some really weird culty type, sci-fi horror stuff, and then but he got screwed really hard trying to make that movie because the studio wanted it to be something that it wasn't necessarily, and he was kind of like a pretty young and weirdo director, and then I'm pretty sure a hurricane destroyed the set, and then Marlon Brando showed up, and it was a whole thing, and so he is like promising film career got cut relatively short. You've found a picture there?
Yeah, him and Nick Cage.
Great. There's him and can't tell who is whom.
Out of focus.
But yeah, so anyway, The Color Out of Space was kind of like his return, which is weird because it's like 2 decades later. And it's a weird movie. Visually,
It might be a movie that thinks it's more cerebral than it actually is. It has some moments in it that are haunting and will last with me forever.
yes.
Mostly Nicolas Cage's dialogue delivery. No, I'm just kidding. There is a part in the movie that is like just harrowing to watch.
Yeah.
But there's some of it that actually looks like quite beautiful.
It is, yeah. You know, it reminded me of what's that Natalie Portman movie? And the woman shouts it at the end. Not Armageddon, but what was it?
I read them all.
Yeah, what?
Authority. I can remember all the other books.
Anyway,
what the hell? No. Let me go. I'm gonna look at my bookshelf.
All right,
I'm not gonna Google it.
Bookshelf. It's the movie when Natalie Portman goes into the prison world, and then there's a bear that sounds like a woman. Annihilation, and at the end the woman goes annihilation. But it was it had like a visual style like that, like times 10, which is really good because, like you mentioned, I thought the movie was okay. I knew it was going to be weird because Ryan liked it. And he doesn't really like pick out things that are tall.
Things about it. There's some of the writing, specifically some dialogue and delivery of the dialogue that is a bit hokey. And there were parts where you and I like laughed out loud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, soft premise is basically that there's this family that's already kind of weird living in a farmland in like the mountainous countryside of this small town. And then something comes out of space and lands in their backyard and basically starts like corrupting the whole area. Like it's like this is a movie about the first 12 hours of an alien invasion that probably spans off into something much greater.
I think it's worth watching.
It's definitely worth watching. We watched what's that other movie? The whole world is a blur, kind of like the prisms in Annihilation. But the Cronenberg movie that we watched.
Oh, Possessor.
Everyone set up Possessor as being like, oh, it's so Cronenberg. I thought this movie was a little bit...
son of Cronenberg.
Yeah, I know. But like everyone said, this movie felt like it had more of that kind of like what body I think horror. Of with Cronenberg and body horror and stuff. And then Nick Cage is good. I think sometimes people go, Nick Cage is here, and then they just let him go run wild. And it's entertaining in some scenes, and in other scenes you're like, that's weird.
We've also been watching, or recently finished watching, the 4th season of Search Party, which is Aaliyah Shawkat and
Ron Livingston.
Ron Livingston. Yeah, no, it's like millennial horror, I guess.
Yeah, well, you've been with this show since the beginning,
which is a long time now for 4 seasons of a show to come out, because I think it first came out in 2016.
Yeah, which is, I guess, a little bit more than one a year, or a little bit less than one a year. But this show has been paced really weird.
Yeah, it was a show that aired on TBS, and then it got taken to HBO Max. So then it kind of got like, it got delayed. Some of the seasons got pushed. But it's a show that you watch the initial season and you think, well, where can they take the second season? And somehow they've been reinventing and flipping the narrative each season in a way that feels really satisfying, and in a way where like you think that a character has reached their pinnacle of growth or decay, whichever way you want to look at it, and then the next season they somehow figure out a way to flip it again.
Yeah,
it's great
show.
But this season, I will say, made me feel so unsettled.
Oh yeah, it's the perfect if you hate millennials and or are a millennial, it's like the perfect show for you, because it's a show that acknowledges the complete
self-obsession
of a specific generation, and like, not necessarily in a critical way, because it's clearly made by people who are of that generation.
It's dark and it's funny, and it's it's like some episodes like you feel like you need a shower after, but hey,
especially this season,
kind of like this podcast. We also have been watching the new season of Big Mouth, which I feel like we held off on because I love that show, and I didn't want it to start because I didn't want it to end.
Yeah. Which I think maybe just for us personally is getting out of hand a little bit, because there's stuff like Ted Lasso, which we still haven't finished because you don't want it to end.
We started it like right when it came out, but have been
yeah,
cruising with it.
But I'm ready. I'm ready to finish it, and then, but you're like, well, I'm just gonna take the chocolate chips out of the cookie and eat the little chips first. But yeah, so Big Mouth, great show. We've probably talked about it before in the past. Animated show from Nick Kroll, and it deals with puberty in probably the most comprehensive way any show has ever. In your face
way, and honest and gross.
Gross, lots of close-ups of a vagina spitting out period blood.
All cartoons, so it's fine.
But the good thing is that it generally has a lesson. And I said this the last time we talked about this show, and I stand by it even more so, is that I think there's a lot of things that young people, tweens and teens and what have you, deal with that they don't understand. That how or why they're dealing with those things at the time.
And society or their parents tiptoe around it.
You tiptoe around it. You just don't know how to put it in those terms. We figured out like Sesame Street is for like really young kids. Like how do we put these things in a language that they'll understand that's still entertainment? Big Mouth is like that for adolescents.
Except, I mean, I bet people would argue that the subject matter is too mature. Except that's the problem, I think, with that age group, is where these kids are going through these things that are very mature, but then no one wants to speak to them in a way that seems like it's too mature for them. It's like this weird, conflict.
So, but when you're watching it as an adult, you get the combination of going like, oh my gosh, this is really cathartic. Also, I can laugh at this.
Yeah. But I'm sure if you were 13 and you watched it, you might feel less alone or less like, oh my God, my body is weird and this is weird.
So, but
I don't know how you reconcile that.
I don't know how you reconcile it either, but it's a really great show. We've kind of been burning through that one too. Another thing that I want to shout out, we've been watching Seinfeld. Anyway.
Moving on.
Miracle Workers.
Yeah.
So, Elise, this is I mean, I think I'm just going to go ahead and credit you for all of these.
I'm going to credit to Zack Snyder for Miracle Workers because I had it in my queue, but I wasn't watching it, and I probably wouldn't have started watching it. But then Zach was like, "You would probably like this show a lot,"
which is weird because it's like his sense of humor.
It is very much Zach's sense of humor. Like
if you read Zach's writing, like it feels like Zach writing, which is weird. A weird thing to say to someone that I think you'd like this because it's like me.
And it's a Daniel Radcliffe and Steve Buscemi vehicle.
Go on.
And Geraldine Viswanathan. I'm sorry, I butchered her name. She is like the lead in it too. And the great thing about this show is that each season is an anthology story, or the show is an anthology, so each season is a respective story. So the first season, without giving too much away, it takes place in heaven, and you're following these two angels, I guess you could say. But it's kind of, I think it's the kind
miracle
of
workers.
Yes, you're following these miracle workers that they perform miracles. But I really like the vision of the afterlife this show does in the first season, because the idea is that you die but then you go to heaven and you get a job.
Oh, okay.
Basically. And then there's God, who's played by Steve Buscemi, which is like a fantastic Steve Buscemi part. But the second season then takes you to the Dark Ages. It's medieval, and it's a whole other story with new characters and actors. It's
interesting. I'm curious if that was always the intention from the start. I mean, I guess it must have been. But like, because I didn't watch the first season with you. You're like, I'm going to watch this show, Miracle Workers. It's recommended by Zach. And I went, hard pass. But you just started watching it. And then I would see, it would be on or whatever. And then I would go about my business. And then you were like, hey, do you want to, I'm going to watch season 2 of Miracle Workers. Do you want to watch it with me? And I was like, well, no, because I didn't watch the first season with you. And then you're like, aha.
Doesn't matter.
They start over, all new characters, new setting, a whole new premise. Which I think, man, just from a creative standpoint, not that anyone wants my writing or creativity or performance, but that's the ticket, man. That's imagine you get a show that you can do what you do. You're like, oh, we're going to do 10 episodes. Then we can start over with whatever we want. And you can recast everybody as new characters. Like, to me, that just feels like playing. That's just like playing pretend every single season, and you don't have to get into the problem of figuring out how to tell a story across 50 episodes for 5 years. You just kind of do the one episode.
My personal theory on it, because I've thought about this, is that it was this team writer, director, whatever, doing the first season, and it was probably just meant to be a miniseries. Then it did so well, or they enjoyed this cast so much, and said, "Hey, we can do another story." That's my personal theory. Probably way off, but
well, if you have intimate knowledge of how Miracles Workers came about,
let us know.
Let us know. Hit us up in the comments. Okay. You ready to jump into meat potatoes? That's the only things we've really been watching. I can't. I watched Streetcar Named Desire for the first time. Anyway, the Snyder Cut, the only movie being currently marketed. The Snyder Cut, despite the fact that it is coming to HBO Max. Full disclosure: we work for Rooster Teeth, HBO Max. That we are a subsidiary of Warner Brothers, makes HBO Max. That being said, our opinions are all our own. This appears to be the only movie. They're treating it like this movie is going to save theaters.
We haven't seen a single thing about Falcon and Winter Soldier. Okay,
Yeah.
There's no trailer, no one's talking about it. Disney's doing no marketing, but the Snyder Cut is just, it comes out I think mid-March, and it's been in the conversation for 6 months now.
It's just interesting because we've seen a shift of HBO Max especially, if you've seen a shift of taking these movies that were going to be big blockbuster things in theaters everywhere and try and make all this money in theaters, and then shift that to streaming and how people have kind of pivoted the marketing, but none of them have put the investment time in us. They're really banking on the Snyder Cut of Justice League being a big thing, and while I am excited, I still don't know how you fix.
Here's the problem, James. You can be as cynical as you want about it.
Not cynical.
But
I'm a Snyder lover.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is we can be questioning. We can voice these concerns. But I'm excited. You're excited.
I am
We're
excited.
excited. Yeah. I'm excited to see it. I'm so intrigued. It's working. Whatever it's doing is working. And they as I don't know if you saw this, but Zack Snyder on his Vero account, because he's still wholly bought into Vero and loves it.
Yep. Me too. I'm on Vero. Follow me on Vero.
He shared a picture of Jared Leto Joker.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is a blurred photo.
It's a card. And then he's got medical gloves on.
He looks like he might have a face mask around his.
Holding a Joker card, and he does appear, and again, very, very out of focus, but he does appear to be a far cry from the Joker we saw in Suicide Squad.
Hair looks long and stringy.
Almost like a recessed hairline.
A little more Heath Ledger.
And also, I guess we don't even know the timeline of things, but it does seem like he has seen some shit. He's not partying and whatever. And I am here for it. I've said very openly in the past that I think Suicide Squad is one of the worst movies ever put to screen. And I think it's a travesty that it made as much money that it does. And I'm grateful for the fact that we're getting a new one that doesn't acknowledge the original at all. I also think Jared Leto's interpretation of the Joker, more so the movie's interpretation of the Joker, is one of the worst Jokers I've ever seen ever. And I never thought it was Jared Leto's fault necessarily. He's a great actor. And he really gets into roles, and it looks like you give him the material and all right, it's going to say damaged on his forehead. And he's going to be great, it says damaged on my forehead.
But wasn't he kind of destructive on set, sending his co-stars weird stuff and things like that?
No, the Joker was.
Okay. All right. The thing that is also getting buzz is the focus on Knightmare. That's Nightmare with a K, which is something that Zack Snyder had planned to focus on in his original film, but then Joss Whedon avoided. And I don't know too much about Knightmare. Batman,
the Knightmare timeline.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know either. So I'm sure there's better places.
Let's look it up.
Maybe they'll talk about it on the Real Canon podcast.
Promote John Reisinger's podcast.
But yeah, I don't know too much about it. I mean, when they had a new episode tomorrow. There's when they had the dream sequence, the nightmare dream sequence from Batman v Superman. It felt very much like I mean, it was a send up of a lot of things. All of Zack Snyder's stuff has been like, I'm just going to pull from all of my favorite different comic panels and then throw that together into a movie, which is probably why the movies make really great trailers, but then feel kind of mishmash, thrown together stuff narratively in the actual movie itself. But the Knightmare send up felt like, you had Red Sun style Batman fighting an evil Superman, but wasn't necessarily an evil Russian Superman. It was just kind of like, there's a lot of stuff going on. Or what was it? It almost felt like then they were setting up for a fight, kind of Dark Knight Returns. Like, so they had like a bunch of different things going on. So I don't know the specifics of the Knightmare timeline.
Yeah, the dystopian future imagines a world where big bad Darkseid succeeds in taking over the Earth, and Superman becomes a tyrant after the death of Lois Lane.
Okay, all right.
Meanwhile, Batman does what he can to fight back. So yeah, they showed us is it in Batman versus Superman where they showed that there's the sequence in the desert, the dream sequence,
yeah.
and then Superman's like a servant to Apocalypse or whatever.
It doesn't necessarily not Apocalypse, but like he's like people are working for Superman, and then at the I feel like at the very end of it, it pulls out and reveals that Darkseid's flying monsters are all there. But then when Justice League came out, they kind of negated a lot of that.
Joss Whedon just went, because apparently Zack Snyder was going to do more of it in Justice League, but then Joss Whedon was like, no, and he swatted it down like a cat.
Because a lot of what Zack Snyder does is he puts stuff in his movies that ensures that he has to be brought back for the next one. It's very smart. It's like leaving a coat behind at someone's house, so you have to go pick it up. But it felt like it got pivoted by Joss Whedon in Justice League to be like, oh no, like it's more of a Steppenwolf, it was just we're just warning about Steppenwolf fight kind of happening. Whereas if you watch Batman v Superman, Ben Affleck has a dream.
Yeah.
But then is it a dream? Because as soon as he wakes up, Flash is reaching out to him from another dimension, warning him of like what's to come, and then they didn't follow through.
You remember a lot about Batman vs Superman.
I watched it a lot. The director's cut and the theatrical version. Again, I'm a Snyderhead. Snyderhead. You can call me Snyderhead. I just think it's such a weird thing. The idea of getting super hyped for this Justice League movie. I don't know how much they filmed for, but I just like we watched Two Towers, the extended edition of Two Towers, and we were trying to think about what the theatrical version of that movie was even like, because we've spent so much time watching the extended. And thinking about it, it's like, oh yeah, well, like, I guess they just don't have this part, they don't have that part. But to intrinsically have changed what Two Towers is after the fact seems really difficult.
It's part of me almost wants to watch the original Justice League.
We're gonna.
Are we?
I think we should.
Okay.
Or we do it the other way. We go in with a blank slate, we watch New Justice League, and then we go back and we watch the other one.
I don't know if I'll have the enthusiasm after.
We'll take 6 months. It'll be 6 months hiatus between the two.
Well.
But yeah, so
speaking of hiatus,
we're going to take a hiatus real quick to hit you with some ad reads. Thanks for the toss, James and Elise. This episode is brought to you by... Oh, wait. There's no ad read. This is a freebie episode. You guys just get to watch this however you want to. So I won't take up too much of your time. Let's get back to the show. And we're back. Elise, there's another hiatus you wanted to mention, I believe, before that other hiatus.
Another famous hiatus, which is the Twins franchise. Because
you thought we were just joking.
In 1988, Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger starred in, was it Ivan Reitman's Twins? Did he do Twins?
Sounds about right.
And it made a ton of money. It was a big success, and people said, okay.
They drive a car on two wheels at one point.
They said this franchise is going to be buco bucks.
Right. They said they knew back then it was going to be a franchise?
I think some people knew.
They said there's more story to be told.
I think some people knew, whether they said it or not. But then, of course, so we're waiting decades. And then in 2012 comes out, there's a script in development. We're getting a sequel to Twins. Twins.
It's called Triplets.
Well, that's what they were saying. Tentatively titled Triplets, because in 2017, Schwarzenegger said
I was checking the notes. It does say that.
It does.
I was just making a joke.
Schwarzenegger said it was going to be triplets, and that Eddie Murphy was in negotiations to play the third long-lost sibling.
Wow. Blessed.
But then, where has that been at? Because Eddie Murphy's been focused on coming to
Nutty
America.
Professor. Oh.
He's directed all his efforts behind that movie.
Yeah.
But Danny DeVito recently, he said, don't worry, it's still in development. It's still coming.
Danny DeVito. Okay, so that's the news story. Is that Danny DeVito said the movie is still... No one has formally thrown it in the trash yet.
He said, yes, yeah, we're working on it. It's been a while, I know, but we're developing the screenplay right now. It's like really defensive.
Who asked him this question?
I mean, Danny DeVito's 76.
Yeah.
So...
I mean, Arnold's old too.
How tall do you think Arnold Schwarzenegger is?
6...
Apparently he's 5'10".
What?
Apparently he's not as tall as you think he is. Google Arnold Schwarzenegger height.
This is a weird show. Nailed it. Oh my god, I got his I spelled his last name correctly first try.
But you didn't add the word height at the end.
6'2". So I don't know where you get. That's what I basically exactly said.
I don't know about that. Okay.
Sylvester Stallone 5'10".
Maybe that's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah. So what was the point of that?
The point of this story is, I mean, can't you even make twins? Would twins be seen as, in 2021 kind of being a mockery of like,
twins?
Because obviously the joke of twins is like, he's a big guy, he's a small guy,
Different.
And then if they're roping in Eddie Murphy to play the third long lost black brother, like, is that even more than maybe is?
I think if there's anything the world needs, if we're trying to get people back in theaters, we need big blockbuster franchises. And when I think blockbuster franchise, I think twins. And so if we can get this film going, it would be great. I'm not one for just pure nostalgia send-ups, but I do think that is, we get the nostalgia, we get to see Danny, we get to see Arnold back together, and we throw in Eddie Murphy. He's going to inject that energy into it. I think this would be a great way to kind of like send off this franchise that we have all loved so much.
Sounds good.
I just love that. There you go, Danny. What's going on with the triplets movie? He's like, it's in development.
Coming.
Like, what are you gonna say? We gave up. No, we gave up. I have tons of things that are in development. Ask me about them. Okay, so we've covered twins. We've covered Zack Snyder.
That's about it.
So let's talk about movies that are actually going to win awards. The Golden Globes nominations. Golden Globes are, the Foreign Press Association, I believe. They are kind of a lead-in to the Academy Awards. People always see them as like, oh, the Academy Awards are the big one, but this is like Golden Globes are like the lead-in. It tastes.
Yeah, that's why I don't put money on the Globes.
Never put your money on the Globes, because that's just a test bed for what's going to happen in the Academy Awards. But they released their nominees, and it's a weird year. Obviously, this is going to be one of the weirdest awards shows, and I'm glad they're not skipping it altogether. But we wanted to talk through some of them and basically predict who we think are going to win some of these major categories, knowing that we've mostly been watching Seinfeld and haven't seen most of these films.
We've seen some. Okay, so should we start with the Best Picture
Let's
categories?
start at the top. That's what
All
people do, the opposite of what they would do at the show.
Okay, Best Picture Drama. The nominees are The Father, Mank, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, and The Trial of the Chicago 7. I've seen 2 of these.
I've seen 2. We started Mank, and we got 10 minutes in, and then I think you fell asleep.
True. I've seen Promising Young Woman and The Trial of Chicago 7.
And I have a father.
The Father.
So there's that.
I do want to see, want to see the rest of these.
Mm-hmm. So there's a couple things at play. I think, you always consider the political climate of things. And in that case, The Trial of the Chicago 7, I think, is a very relevant movie to today.
So is Promising Young Woman. Really.
Promising Young Woman is as well, but
so
it's not
Mank.
as political.
I'm just kidding.
Well, but the thing about Mank is it's a movie, it's an unnecessarily black and white movie. Well, that's a little harsh, but it's a black and white movie set talking about the world of Hollywood.
Oh, yes.
And we know how much Hollywood loves movies that are about Hollywood, so that probably gives it an edge. I don't know anything about The Father or Nomadland. So
I do think the Trial of the Chicago 7 being a Netflix release might diminish it in some people's eyes as being less.
Yeah,
you know,
it is great though.
Of these movies, like of the two I've seen,
Go on.
I'm still thinking about Promising Young Woman a lot. It's probably going to be The Father.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say Mank.
I'm gonna go Nomadland.
Okay, what's Nomadland about?
Frances McDormand. I almost called her Catherine Zeta-Jones. All right.
Next. So then the interesting thing about the Golden Globes is that they have different qualifications for what good movies can be, and so they have musical comedy mixed in. I don't know who decided that was a different category, but like. These are ones that take themselves seriously, and these are ones that don't.
They're like, hey, take the goofiest shit and throw it in here. This is wild.
Yeah.
This year's category or nominees for Best Musical Comedy category.
So we have Borat, subsequent movie, film, etc., etc., etc. Then Hamilton. Then we have something called Music, which I haven't heard of.
It's Sia.
Oh, she made a movie?
No.
Is this just a concert that they filmed?
No, I have heard about it, but Sia recently did some pretty... she's problematic lately.
Okay, well, then I'm not voting for it. Palm Springs and The Prom.
I can't believe.
The Prom, so out of this, I've seen 3... And then you watched some of The Prom?
Oh man, I've tried at least 3 times to put on The Prom, and I just can't.
And every single time you put it on, I go, "Why are you watching this?" So I love that it's here. Great for getting nominated. Truly a blessed year. Where is Sonic, by the way? No Sonic? Wasn't that supposed to be the big thing?
Jim Carrey didn't even get a nomination.
Sonic is going to win awards this year. First things first, I think Hamilton should be out. Shouldn't count, and it's nominated a lot, and I think it shows the desperation that we're in. I don't think Hamilton, something that is just a filmed version of a Broadway show, shouldn't count as a movie.
That's been a point of controversy because it's not eligible for an Oscar. The Academy Awards have some verbiage in their guidelines that works that are essentially promotional or instructional are not eligible, nor works that are essentially unfiltered records of performances.
Yes.
Which the Golden Globes, I don't believe, have, obviously, if they're nominating it.
It seems like a waste to nominate it because it already has awards for what its skill sets are pertaining to. I think that the way they recorded the performance of Hamilton for that Disney Plus premiere was really good, but it was just showing me the musical that you would see on stage. It didn't use any of the more advanced or more interesting techniques of film to make it stand out as a film. So I think it's kind of lame that it's nominated here. And then later on, especially when it comes to performances too, I think that's really lame too. Like those, we have awards for what they did really well. So I will not. Sia, you're out. Hamilton, you're out. Which leaves basically The Prom, Palm Springs, which I really enjoyed, and Borat. I'm going to have to go Borat on this one.
I would like Borat to get it. For some reason, I have this feeling that it's not going to be Borat, though.
I think it's going to be Hamilton, because I think people don't know what the definition of a movie is.
I think it might be Hamilton, or it could even be Palm Springs.
I mean, Palm Springs is fun. I did really enjoy Palm Springs. I had a fun time watching it.
But Palm Springs winning a Golden Globe would be wild.
It would be wild, especially when you think about the fact when Palm Springs came out, we did a whole podcast on Lonely Island and some of their other movies. I know that this isn't a full-on Lonely Island movie, but if
you told me Popstar deserved a Golden Globe, I would say yes.
The fact that Popstar didn't win anything or be nominated for its music or whatever is like a crime against humanity. So, okay. So should we do, are we going to do is this best actress in a drama? Yeah. Best actress in a motion picture drama. You want to go ahead?
Viola Davis, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I haven't seen that yet. Do you really want to see that? Andra Day, United States versus Billie Holiday. Haven't seen that yet. Didn't know that was a movie that existed. Vanessa Kirby, Pieces of a Woman. Haven't seen that. Frances McDormand, No Man's Land. Haven't seen that. Carey Mulligan, Promising Young Woman. Have seen that.
Have seen that.
And thought she was exceptional in it. I can't make a worthy appraisal.
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna say Andra Day, United States versus Billie Holiday, because it is based on a historical figure, and in a lot of cases, I don't know if she plays the titular Billie Holiday in that film. Either she plays that or the United States, but if she does play Billie Holiday, then I think she will win.
Viola Davis is always fantastic.
Always fantastic.
Always fantastic. I think she, having not seen the movie, probably deserves it. Frances McDormand is always good, and I feel like they're going to want to really give it to her, because that's what they're accustomed to, is giving awards to Frances McDormand.
They love it.
But I'd be happy if Carey Mulligan got it. The one disappointment that I got from this was that Julia Garner, who you know from Ozark, the film The Assistant that she starred in, she was excellent in that. I thought for sure she would get a nomination.
All right, Best Actor, Motion Picture Drama. We got Riz Ahmed from The Sound of Metal, Chadwick Boseman, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Anthony Hopkins from The Father, Gary Oldman from Monk, the adaptation of the TV show.
Tahar Rahim.
Yeah, Tahar Rahim.
The Mauritanian.
So, again, I've only seen Sound of Metal. And I was pretty blown away by Riz Ahmed's performance. I think it's up there with some of his other stronger performances like Venom. But
people are saying this might finally be Anthony Hopkins' year.
Yeah, if there's one thing Anthony Hopkins finally deserves is recognition for his acting. Chadwick Boseman is fantastic in pretty much everything I've ever seen him in. And of course, it would be posthumous, so like there's that aspect to it. A great memoriam for him in a lot of ways. I haven't seen this film, but there's never been something that I've seen Chadwick Boseman in where I'm not like, oh my gosh, like stellar performance. Gary Oldman, as always. I mean, these are some titans swinging away at it. So I honestly, it's not about being disappointed or whatever. I'm gonna say Riz Ahmed just because I was watching that film, going like, oh my gosh, like this is a powerhouse performance, and I kind of loved every second of watching him on screen. Sometimes there's movies that are like depressing, and you're like, ugh. Like I think of like Adrian Brody in the Pianist, where I'm like, well, the movie is more depressing than maybe his performance pulled me in. But watching Riz Ahmed in that film, I wanted to just follow him.
Guttural.
I wanted to follow him and his story. And when it was ending, I was like, no, give me more of him. So that to me is a real testament to a charismatic performance.
I guess it's going to be Gary Oldman.
Probably going to Gary.
For the Best Actress, Maria Bakalova from Borat. Man.
Out of nowhere. Where did she come from?
Kate Hudson was in Music. Michelle Pfeiffer, French Exit. Haven't heard of that. Rosamund Pike was in I Care a Lot. Also,
I wish they would put parentheses what streaming platform this movie was on or what country it released in, because I feel like, I don't know.
Anya Taylor-Joy for Emma, which I've wanted to watch, but
I always go, let's just watch Clueless. You know? If we're going to watch it, let's watch Clueless. Again, the whole joke of this is that we shouldn't be weighing in on any of this. Because we have no qualifications.
I hope Maria gets it, though.
I just think she stole that movie.
Yeah.
When we watched that movie the whole time, I was thinking, like, the trailer makes you go, uh-oh, Borat has a daughter. And so, but then you watch them together and you're like, oh my gosh, no, just give me more scenes with her. She's fantastic. Like, so great.
Best actor in a motion picture, musical or comedy, Sacha Baron Cohen for Borat, James Corden for The Prom, Yeesh, Lin-Manuel Miranda for Hamilton, Dev Patel for Personal History of David Copperfield, and Andy Samberg for Palm Springs.
All of these, this is the only one, with the exception of the entirety of The Prom, that we have seen.
Yeah.
This is the only category.
And I feel like we can already make an assumption on it's
gonna go to James Corden. as a recompense for his work in Cats.
I would love if I don't know. I mean, Dev Patel is like super charming and fun and wonderful in Personal History of David Copperfield. I would love if that movie got some recognition in some way.
The whole movie is very magical.
Yeah.
But again, Buster Jones is such an iconic role. Yeah, I don't know that. I'd say
give it to anyone but James Corden.
I mean, and again, I'm removing Lin-Manuel Miranda from it just on a technicality.
Give him the Tony.
Give him the Tony. Didn't he already get it? All right. Best Supporting Actress for a Motion Picture. We'll do a couple more of these. Glenn Close for Hillbilly Elegy, which I only heard from people wasn't good. I haven't seen myself. Olivia Colman. Is it always? Does she have an E in there?
Let me check.
Is there a typo in our Golden Globes page, or is it just
Coleman? It's
Coleman.
Yeah.
Okay. From The Father, Jodie Foster,
The Mauritanian,
from Mauritanian, Amanda Seyfried,
Monk,
from Monk. If you're not gonna take this seriously,
Helena Zungel, News of the World. That's that Tom Hanks movie.
Okay.
I mean, kudos Helena for getting nominated. These titans.
Yeah, these are definitely powerhouse actresses. I'm gonna give it to Olivia again.
Sure, yeah.
Why not? We'll give it to her. Big congrats to her.
I honestly wouldn't
just want to hear another speech.
I wouldn't even mind Glenn getting it because I feel like Glenn Close gets overlooked a lot.
Glenn Close, it's a make good from her not getting nominated for her role in Hook as the pirate thrown in the boo box.
Best Supporting Actor, Sacha Baron Cohen, and nominated in 2 categories for Trial of the Chicago 7.
Yes.
Daniel Kaluuya, Judas and the Black Messiah. Jared Leto, The Little Things. Bill Murray, On the Rocks. And Leslie Odom Jr., One Night in Miami, which I still really, really want to watch. Because the actor that I like from the Hulu High Fidelity is in that as well.
Okay.
I've only seen one of these movies.
I'm going to Jared Leto because he's doing finger guns in the photograph, the official photograph that they're using for the Golden Globes. It's finger guns. And so I got to go Jared Leto because he's like, vote for me. And I appreciate that. No, I haven't seen. I've only seen Trial of the Chicago 7 for this. So,
oops, sorry. Give it to Leslie. That's what I say.
Okay. All right.
He's talented. He's super talented.
All right. This will probably be our last category here. We're gonna do Best Director for a Motion Picture.
Unprecedented. 3 women nominated in this category.
Which is also interesting because why don't they delineate between Best Director of a Musical Comedy? The Golden Globes are crazy. They do whatever they want. Emerald Fennell, Promising Young Woman. David Fincher, Mank. Regina King, One Night in Miami. Aaron Sorkin, The Trial of Chicago 7. And Chloe Zhao for No Man Land.
What is Aaron Sorkin looking at? It's like someone had to dangle something up there to get him to.
Yeah. Well, again, we've only seen 2 of the 5 films nominated here.
True.
I've only heard amazing things about One Night in Miami.
Same.
I've heard it's very much an acting film for lots of performance-centric stuff. And everything I've said is that Regina King did such an amazing job getting these stellar performances.
Getting these shitty actors to finally put up a good performance.
She herself being an actor, like it would make sense that she can bring that out. So she knows her shit essentially. Trial
of the Chicago 7. It's weird because it's a movie with really heavy and important subject matter, but you don't. And it does feel like it's heavy to watch, but it has that Sorkin kind of energy to it.
Oh yeah, it cuts through some of the tension a lot of times with some levity.
I would give it to Emerald Fennell because I think Promising Young Woman to pull off a story like that in a movie like that, in a movie where like apparently people when they read that script they were like, what the hell is the tone of this movie? I think I was listening to Max Greenfield, who's in it, talk about it, and he was talking about how he read the script and then was like, what kind of movie is this? And then met with Emerald Fennell and was like, oh, after I spoke with her about it, I completely got it. And she was very like instrumental in carrying that movie to be what it was, and by all accounts it was a tough thing to pull off. And like, again, I'm still thinking about it. We watched it, a month ago.
It's a great lens, right? Because, it's definitely a take on believing women and, very, very much it's a Me Too that kind of pigeonholes it, but it's a very Me Too style film that deals with a lot of those issues. But I think it also does a good job of showing characters, and it's not like necessarily accusational in a lot of ways. It's more like, listen, we're showing you character stuff like Max Greenfield's character. They're like, don't necessarily encounter them in real life, but they're the worst attributes of people that you do know. So you do recognize the characters when you see them. And it's that line, that blurred line of like cartoon reality. Like, it's kind of like Big Mouth in a lot of ways.
It is a movie that I wish was shown to like every adolescent.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I don't know. I'll back you on this one.
Emerald, give it to her.
I'll give it to Emerald as well, and
I'd give it to Regina King.
Okay.
Or Chloe.
All right. Okay. Definitely not Aaron. Definitely not Aaron. This is his directorial debut, I believe, right? Wasn't it?
Aaron Sorkin?
Yeah, I think he does a lot of writing. Anyway, we're clearly the perfect people to be talking about this. We have a lot of movies that we still need to watch, but when they don't come out on a weekly basis, and they just kind of drop wherever, and then you have to go dig them up, it's kind of hard to do. But we're gonna catch up on some of these movies.
I did this quiz recently where it had like 30 different streaming platforms listed, and you had to guess which ones were real and which ones were fake. And I think I got like half right.
I'd love to do that quiz.
It was really fun.
All right. Well, anyway, thank you so much. A little bit different this week. Kind of just the Elise and James world entertainment recap. If you're out there with a cable news channel and you want us to do this every single week for you, make sure to let us know. We're happy to do it. But yeah, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you everybody for listening. We're hoping, not going to promise, but hoping that next week we'll have something a little special for you.
What does it mean to hope against hope?
It means that you're going to make it happen, right? You're not going to rely on hope.
What do we have that's special?
We might have a fun little episode thing that we're going to be doing next week. And then until then, it's just waiting for the Snyder Cut.
Baby.
Oh, baby. 4 hours.
So many cuts.
Or something like that. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you next week for another episode of Funhaus. Good. There. Come out of space.